pulling out his newly purchased phone to search for information. Chan Ho saw that and immediately asked if he had just bought it. Just waiting for that. Dae Sung immediately flexed. The seller said this is the hottest model on the market. It looks really good. No joke. Hearing him explode like a firecracker made Chan Ho laugh. It's true that only a fool like this guy would believe those nonsense. This crappy phone is just something sold alongside another product. Don't tell me you have to spend money to buy this. He was patient and didn't say anything. But his friend kept kicking him. Dae Sung was so angry that he woke up and blew his head. Seeing that, Chan Ho stopped teasing his friend and continued explaining about awakened people. Even if they don't use the oral weapon, they can still use it to strengthen their bodies. Dae Sung's quick recovery can be used as proof of the above. Not to mention the fact that the gangsters who came to his house were also beaten up in a real beating. It's hard for a normal person to do, let alone someone who's been in a vegetative state for 10 years. Clicking his tongue to show his agreement with Chan Ho's serious opinion. Dae Sung asked that I only respect you. If I have money, I wouldn't lend it to a few good friends. Chan Ho's mouth dropped open at that green sentence. His blood boiled with anger and he shouted. Are you stoned? Let's get serious. You crazy guy. What's so stressful? Dad? Dae Sung calmly turned around and asked how much Chan Ho's monthly income was. Perhaps the question was too sensitive. So at that moment a crack suddenly appeared in the sky, causing the two guys to immediately turn on alert mode and look intently upward. With just a tiny crack at first, it expanded into a huge space portal. Demons appeared from inside, causing people to panic and scream in terror. A pair of hideously large thighs jumped down, shattering the ground. The monsters wearing loincloths have been filling the road for a while now. They used large wooden poles to pound the road. An army of green-skinned demons descended to face weak mortals. Shocked by their appearance, the people were completely motionless and could only stare. Suddenly, the leader raised his staff and howled, causing the rest to raise their weapons and scream as well. That display of strength successfully made the people run away in panic. Only the two of them were able to maintain composure. Dae Sung silently observed the situation while Chan Ho seemed quite concerned. Tonight he had to work overtime without pay. Staring at that group of ugly creatures, he suddenly realized that the demons in hell looked much cuter. Stomping his feet, the stone floor cracked. Then he picked up a stone and juggled it in his hand. He wanted to kill him. I'm going to see what kind of bravery this group has. Worried about what Dae Sung was planning to do, Chan Ho watched every move like I'm begging you. Dae Sung swung his arms back to gain momentum, then quickly rotated his hips and bent his upper body down, throwing the stone flying. In Chan Ho's surprise, the wind-cutting stone rushed straight towards the demon but was bounced back because it hit an obstacle, causing him to strain his eyes to see what that thing was and discovered that the demon had set up a scene. Shielding his whole body, he felt a pair of eyes staring at him passionately at the banana fish. It turned around and glared at it. After seeing him throw rocks at the monster, Chan Ho panicked and said, I told you that mediocre weapons can't do anything to them. But he didn't want to listen and just focused on looking forward. The demon's ugly legs were rushing like crazy towards this place. Just a few seconds later, it loomed in front of the two people's eyes, waving its staff and mouth, shouting a show of strength. Frightened, Chan Ho closed his eyes and silently cursed Dae Sung for squeezing his brother's butt like that. But a jet of blood shot straight to his face, causing him to open his eyes to look, only to realize that it was not his friend's blood but the demon's blood. He just threw a light punch and it was already knocked down. These blue devils looked so powerful, but it turns out they were just as normal as a pound of sugar in a milk carton. Both scared and surprised, Chan Ho's face twitched repeatedly, wondering if he could believe that his friend could punch a demon's head off with his bare hands. Right after that, the green monsters in the distance immediately frantically rushed towards the two people. But don't worry because Dae Sung will take care of whatever is difficult. To gain the initiative, he jumped forward and threw a punch at the monster's face, crushing its crooked head. Dae Sung moved and swapped shapes among the group of demons, continuously casting illusions to lightly behead several of the monster's heads. Then quickly, Chan Ho saw that and was even more surprised. Such a huge skill must have come from B level. My friend is quite good. But he also immediately had to return to reality because the people were so scared that they were huddled together. This is a busy neighborhood with many shops. When there was a loud noise, people rushed out into the street like ants, attracting the attention of some demons, causing them to quickly come. The crowd was in panic and their limbs were weak as everywhere they looked they saw demons blocking their way. At this rate, they were determined to return to their homeland. At the moment of danger, Chan Ho appeared like a savior, screaming at everyone not to be afraid. There is a shelter through the sewer nearby. If you want to live, follow me. But human calculation is not as good as demonic calculation. The green-skinned demons hanging on the nearby buildings jumped down, blocking the group's escape route. Unable to predict this, Chan Ho stood still in fear. The ferocious ghosts came with weapons, causing the crowd to panic and run in all directions, leaving only one little girl standing, crying and calling for her mother. That chaos made them even more aggressive, starting to sprint forward, making the situation chaotic. The girl was still standing on the spot crying loudly, but everyone was busy running away so they didn't pay attention to her. The green-skinned devil rushed into the crowd, using his weapon to whip people to pieces. A monster noticed the crying girl. It stood tall and prepared to strike down this troublesome person with a stick. Terrified by the presence of the devil, the little girl stopped crying and trembled. As quickly as he cut the big stick straight, it spread the fire, causing the ground to shatter. But the demon didn't see the kid anywhere. Luckily, Chan Ho saw that scene and promptly rushed to rescue her from the scythe of death. Before he could rush forward to fire another attack, the demon suddenly got hit by a head and all his teeth fell out. Dae Sung rushed forward like a savior, hitting the demon's head with a pillow, making Chan Ho happily howl. Very good, my friend. The green-skinned devil stood right on the spot. As soon as Dae Sung landed, he glanced over there. Chan Ho was probably still the same as before, always liking to worry about money. But it's because we like his personality that we've become close until now. Dae Sung chased Chan Ho and ran away while he stayed to block these stupid demons. He smiled confidently and Chan Ho said okay, then immediately called for everyone to gather and move to the sewers. Inside the barbecue restaurant, a phone mounted on a tripod was live streaming scenes of him fighting monsters. The comments that jumped up and down were all positive comments, praising his excellent fighting ability. Holding the camera close to the front, the restaurant employee did not forget to comment a few more sentences to add more drama. He's being cornered by demons on the street below. Guys, he's full of bullets. The monsters are forcing Dae Sung into the middle of their siege. The employee inside was screaming in panic. Behind you, behind you. Taking advantage of numbers, the demons continuously launched fatal blows, leaving him unable to react in time. Dae Sung was immediately hit by a fierce blow from a nearby demon and was thrown straight into the car. The employee gasped and thought the hero had died. The livestream is showing him sitting with his head bowed in front of a crushed car. Netizens also think he has passed away. Quickly spam comments. Dae Sung is still in a head-down position, showing no signs that he is still alive. Inside the underground sewer tunnel where the group's uncle was hiding, there was a mother who had lost her child crying loudly. Luckily, the little girl was saved by Chan Ho. It was the little girl who saw her mother and immediately ran away with tears in her eyes. The touching scene of mother and child hugging each other took place, making Chan Ho feel lucky that he didn't save him because he caught a cold. Suddenly the brother who was accompanying him turned around and asked Chan Ho if he still intended to go back there. Immediately interrupted his thoughts. Without asking that question, he's always here. Now suddenly I remember that my friend Dae Sung doesn't know if he's still alive. Of course, he was still collapsed in front of the car, causing curious demons to come and see if this crazy guy was gone or not. A thick calf approached him. The demon looked down with bean-like pupils, then laughed like an idiot. The restaurant employee is still enthusiastically giving likes. The comments are still increasing. Everyone thinks he is dead. Outside, the demon waved his staff high, aimed straight at the back of his neck, and swung down hard, causing the other man to turn around and cover his eyes in fear. Not daring to look at that cruel scene, That fierce blow caused smoke to billow out. But it suddenly stopped because something was wrong. Unexpectedly, it turned out that the whole time it was just hitting the car. The person had disappeared somewhere. Surprised, he turned back and saw that the man who should have died had just thrown a small boy at the head of one of his accomplices. That majestic scene made the oval-haired man extremely excited. It's great. Please chop up all the demons. Blood dripped from Dae-sung's hand. Thanks to killing monsters, he absorbed a lot of magic power. Looking towards it and giving a sinister smile. He now completely couldn't feel any pain. In return for his son's kindness, he will give it back. Both original and in return. Dae-sung turned his legs and rushed forward, gently asking for the heads of nearby monsters. But his movements were so fast that it was difficult for his phone to capture important moments. So netizens immediately criticized the griller, saying the camera was too blurry, filming so far away for ghosts to see. I'll turn it off so you can't watch now. The cameraman got cursed at and got angry. Suddenly, the assassin's account donated 5 million won, promising to donate more if he filmed the other person more clearly. Never seen so many zeros in my life. The waiter's eyes widened and he stood still. The comments on the live also exploded, remembering the stranger's unexpected generosity. However, the waiter was still worried and scared. Even if he had a lot of money, rushing out there and dying would not be of any benefit. The battle out there is still going on extremely intensely. Dae-sung uses his bare hands to fight a bunch of crazy demons. Although he can easily dodge those attacks, he also consumes a lot of magic power to quickly defeat all of these attacks. While dodging the demon's attack and putting strength into his hands, he threw a jaw hook at its ugly face. His feet hovered right above the headless neck, which was pouring out blood like rain. Right after that scene, the strawberry smoothie immediately donated an additional 5 million won, with the condition that if the waiter showed his face more clearly, he would get more. An anonymous message was also sent. As long as he revealed his identity, he would immediately receive a fairly decent amount of money. The waiter was both happy and worried when he saw Nordy inbox jumping continuously but still determined not to go out there. So he had to receive another round of attacks from netizens, sacrificing a little every minute to get to the top. Go. Standing out in the pile of cursing comments was the HMC account with a 20 million won donation that delighted fans. With an offer that couldn't be more attractive. Take a clear picture of your face and provide some basic information. Receive 40 million in fresh money right away, making the waiter's eyes and mouth look straight at the phone screen. At the same time at HM Capital, the live stream of the waiter was playing on the computer screen along with the chatter of employees waiting to receive more information to transfer money. When he saw that YouTube guy had a new move, the blue vest guy smiled with satisfaction. Their gang is on their way there. Maybe this extra hero can be of some help. Even though he was a veteran in the reconnaissance village, this was the first time he had this feeling. Like he was looking at an unknown but extremely talented young demon slayer. Returning to the battle on the other side, Dae-sung stepped on the headless monster and coldly looked at the remaining demons. Just a look like that made them afraid to pee their pants. Seeing that, he showed complete contempt for those people over there. That's right. Stupid people like you know that it's okay to be scared. But suddenly you see a demon's head being beaten down to 20 centimeters. The blow that made its eyes bulge out and its head bleeding was caused by a tall, muscular demon hitting a tree. Terrorize his own kind. Maybe he thought that showing off like that would make him look more majestic. The waiter was standing in the distance filming. He couldn't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change his life. He carefully hid behind the car, his mind constantly begging his great-grandfather, just come back here. But at that moment, the demon howled and ordered the rest of the group to attack. His magic power was about to run out, while the demons kept coming. Damn, it was like a dog biting his torn shirt. Suddenly Chan-ho, like a ghost, appeared right next to the waiter, making him scared to pee his pants and scream to heaven and earth. The phone that was broadcasting live also fell to the ground with a loud scream. Chan-ho immediately turned on the brain-clearing technique mode and cursed this idiot to the point that he could only open his mouth and listen. The phone fell and lay on the ground, making viewers think that the live streamer had been suddenly attacked. but kindly. Adida Buddha hoped his soul would be saved. Chan-ho groggily dragged the waiter towards the front building. But this guy's eyes still looked back. His stomach ached like cutting tears. Crying out pitifully, "Oh my God, money, my money." Chan-ho angrily lifted this idiot away quickly. The waiter could only cry and look at the beloved phone over there. Saying goodbye one last time before leaving. Suddenly a foot as big as a pillar fell down, causing Chan-ho and the waiter to jump in surprise. Directly facing the Blue Devil. He was foaming at the mouth and fainted. Chan-ho panicked and shook this cowardly guy awake. But it was completely ineffective. But just now, I was planning on jumping out and filming a fight scene to earn 20 million. Which was truly unreasonable. At that time, the demon lifted the stick and prepared to come down. But because he had to carry the weight, Chan-ho couldn't run. As if he was about to go to heaven. The monster's head suddenly burst out with fresh blood. A stick flew out of nowhere and cut off the demon's head, saving Chan-ho, who was lucky to escape death by a narrow margin. He quickly looked towards the direction the thing had just flown in and immediately realized that Dae-sung was standing on the pile of corpses of the demons, looking in the pose of a professional javelin thrower. His face filled with confidence. He proudly said, "Nice shot." The two quickly moved inside the barbecue shop. He immediately wondered why Chan-ho came back here. "Grandfather? If you ask something stupid, of course it's because I'm worried about you. Why else? These idiots?" I asked Chan-ho to stay here and look after the waiter who was still unconscious on the kumquat trellis, while he went to take care of some matters. Chan-ho, okay now. Broden Quarry heard some gangs are on their way here too. Seeing Dae-sung's expressionless face, he immediately knew he had no idea what that thing was. Chan-ho immediately said he had to come back and explain later. You should go quickly. The system board informed him that he had completed 100% of his killing progress in the real world. From now on, he is allowed to enter the temple with his body in this reality, and can use all the temple items in the real world. Dae-sung clicked on the temple, and in the blink of an eye, a teleportation gate appeared to Chan-ho's surprise. What the hell is this guy? Suddenly waking up after 10 years. My friend suddenly became a superhero? Dae-sung quickly entered the temple. This time, he was no longer transformed into a hospital gown. However, his body was in pain. His knees were numb. His hands were numb. And after fighting all night with those monsters, he had to immediately ask the system to evaluate his current magic power status. It immediately reported that the percentage of magic power was only less than 10%. Saying, "Why is it so painful? Please tell me what is the fastest way to increase magic power." The status board replied immediately, systematizing his log. As long as he completed the task at the designated location within the allowed time, he would receive the appropriate reward. The diary. Isn't it something he wrote every day while in hell to avoid going crazy? The status panel appeared again and asked if he wanted to systematize the diary or not. Okay, let's do it now, Dae-sung replied. As soon as he finished speaking, a red-covered diary appeared. Preparing the systematization process, a huge stream of energy from the diary immediately burst out from the side, making the surrounding air seem to be choked. As soon as the system alerted, a series of old memories rushed back like a flood in Dae-sung's head. From the scene of falling into hell to the disgusting feeling of eating devil meat for the first time, and even the boring battles with demons. Everything is recreated completely realistically and vividly. The diary suddenly caught fire, signaling the completion of the carving process. His head hurt like hell because he had to recall the horrifying memories of the past. Then asked the system to go to the Predator's Forest on the 16th page. But he was able to use magic power. The system immediately recreated the 75th day of the 5th year he had to live in hell. A thick fog immediately appeared covering him and the entire temple. Returning to the barbecue restaurant in the real world, Chan-ho led the now awake waiter and ran like crazy up the stairs. As he ran, he thought, I don't know if this guy is familiar with the guy who just fought the monsters. Is that there? Unbearably curious and wanting to exploit information, the waiter boldly asked, Handsome guy, do you know where that hero went? Chan-ho turned around with a cold face and glared sharply. You only care about him like that because you want to make money. right? As the other guy knew his fate and held his tongue immediately. Suddenly there was a noise coming from above, causing both of them to startle and look up worriedly. Unsure if there were still survivors on the rooftop, Chan Ho asked the waiter to follow him up there. Just after walking a few steps, his phone suddenly vibrated. Chan Ho quickly checked it, only to find out that he had just been crowned leader of the Ice Soul team. Wang Junjun texted that the gang was late due to traffic jams, telling him to quickly leave the dangerous place. Difficulties made him even more restless, just hoping that his best friend would return quickly. Dae-sung is now standing in a remote, desolate place. The dry, cracked ground is whistling in the wind. The notification system has finished recreating the forest of predators but cannot display information of the corresponding location due to space limitations. The unusual quiet of this place made him extremely wary. An item acquisition mission suddenly appeared with medium difficulty, requiring him to eliminate the celestial beings invading this place within an hour. The goal to achieve is 10 white statues, with a reward of 30% magic power increase and 2,000 additional achievement points. As soon as the system disappeared, a strange thing hidden in the mist appeared. Its hostile intention was so obvious that he easily detected it immediately. Detecting a stranger intruding, it activated protection mode, its eyes flashing a few strange red lights. The aiming coordinates appeared with a powerful laser shining straight down, cutting a line in half right where Dae-sung was standing. But he quickly jumped over to the side. Dae-sung skillfully used flash to dodge out of range of the laser's attack and suddenly braked in front of the real monster. It looks like a big and tall mist with a red cross on its face. And on its head and shoulders there is something sticking out that looks like wings. The notification system discovered a white statue, belonging to the biological robot category, not a fruit robot. This is a combat weapon created by heavenly people. Hearing that, he frowned and looked closely at the so-called weapon, not letting him wait too long. The robot immediately launched a move, using its sharp claws like a drill to stab straight down. But of course it missed just like before. Dae-sung quickly jumped back. But this was not the time to have fun because there was not much time left. He clenched his butt muscles and pumped his energy into his hand. Rushed up and punched the robot straight in the face with a forceful blow, causing half of its mask to shatter into smoke. Then it lost its momentum and fell backwards, causing dust to fly, and he gently landed on the ground. You thought you could defeat the monster. But you were wrong. Its fingers suddenly moved and then suddenly stretched out and rushed away, causing dust to fly and obscure Dae-sung's vision, easily creeping in to attack him by surprise. While avoiding and thinking about counter-attacking, he thought that only lightning could destroy this thing. Kicking his feet to gain momentum, Dae-sung rushed straight into the center where the long fingers dangled without hitting. As soon as he ran towards those nails, they shot them out as fast as they could cut. But Dae-sung was even faster, gritted his teeth and put all his strength into this one punch, immediately launching a fast and strong after-school attack in the middle. Robot, creating a deep donut hole. Its body shattered and fell down, causing sand and dust to fly up in a white haze, covering an entire distance. Dae-sung also quickly escaped from that polluted place. An explosion suddenly erupted with extremely great pressure, causing him to slowly say something like this and that. From the smoke a red ball suddenly appeared, attracting Dae-sung's eyes. Returning to the barbecue restaurant in the real world, Chan Ho was now carefully opening a door. Then the two stepped out onto the terrace and saw dead bodies lying everywhere. This situation is clearly not okay. And it's also not the scene Chan Ho thought he would see. The two of them stiffly looked at the bodies strewn on the ground as if they had been sprayed with glue. When suddenly the wounded man sitting on the opposite wall coughed. The grilled meat brother's voice trembled. There are people living there. Chan Ho also nodded in agreement. Then the two raced like crazy towards the other man. Chan Ho quickly asked if his friend was okay. But he only huffed and puffed a few times, whispering through his dry lips. Go, go. Chan Ho didn't hear clearly and his face stiffened, making him have to use his last breath to make Chan Ho understand. He said behind. Chan Ho now felt an extremely large source of murderous intent right behind him. A green demon as big as a mountain was standing on the roof. Just a glance was enough to make him nervous. But luckily for them, this guy seems stupid. These two guys are standing there. But he doesn't see how talented he is. The waiter immediately told Chan Ho to get up and leave, but saw him keep glancing back and whispering curses not to move this idiot. And to prove that he was an idiot, the waiter mumbled a curse at you and turned his head back. His eyes widening in horror when he saw the demon glaring at him this way. Afraid of peeing blood, he stood there as dumb as a sheet, making Chan Ho, who was angry, have to encourage this dumb star. If he doesn't want to die, he should calm down immediately. Chan Ho carefully advised him that he must follow his orders to have a chance of survival and bring the Rabbit Emperor back to his senses. The green monster up there suddenly screamed loudly to show its authority and then jumped down. At that moment, Chan Ho screamed and ran away. Now or never. Returning to Dae Sung's battle in the forest of predators. The red ball had swelled into a giant one. Observing carefully, but he still didn't understand what was going on. The thing flew up high and began to regenerate. Frowning angrily, he let out a series of curses. His eyes still watching without missing any of its movements. The ball's regeneration progress has reached 10%. The robot's body is being restored with its power. And is also buffed with a few more features for combat. Unable to stand still and wait for death, he broke through the wind and ran as fast as lightning. Took a deep breath, and swung his hand straight to punch the ball. The powerful impact of his fist blew away the dense smoke and dust around him. Dae Sung immediately performed an extremely beautiful backflip in the air, then landed on the ball as light as a feather. But the regeneration progress only dropped to 3% and did not stop completely, making him extremely uncomfortable with this annoying thing. Crazy blood poured down on the ball of continuous punches. The more he punched, the harder it became, like the regeneration speed skyrocketing to 40%. Angry, he immediately punched it with terrible destructive power, breaking the surface of the sphere. But the damn progress had already increased by 55%. The wider the crack seemed to be accelerating the regeneration process, soon reaching the number 65. Dae Sung seemed to be playing kickboxing with the ball, punching and damaging its entire system but unable to stop the regeneration speed, which had increased by 70%. Preparing to land a blow in a fierce punch combo, a laser shot out and burned his sleeve, almost killing the male lead. Quickly glancing back, he saw a group of robots hiding in the thick fog. Everywhere Dae Sung turned was within their sights. Completely surrounded and not knowing which way to run, laser beams were suddenly launched from all directions. They continuously flew together, forming a laser net to capture prey. Dae Sung quickly escaped by jumping up on the net, then landed somewhere far away from the danger. Damn it, he underestimated these monsters. There was 5% left until the ball would complete its regeneration. So he had to put his foot firmly on the ground to gain momentum. The robots sniffed him and immediately changed direction to shoot laser beams at him, but were temporarily not hit. They quickly tracked him down, forcing him to run and try to avoid the attacks, creating an extremely chaotic scene. The regeneration process had reached 98%. His eyes flashed with extreme anger. Then he gritted his teeth and stabbed straight into the core of the sphere. That impact created an earth-shattering explosion and dazzling light throughout the sky. Due to that terrible impact, he was thrown away and slid for a distance. In general, fighting for a while won't do any good. If this continues, you won't be able to end the game. You'll have to quickly find another solution. Now he thought about reviewing his past memories of how he used to defeat these bulls. But his head hurt when he tried to recall old memories. The intense pain made Dae Sung unable to concentrate. In times of misfortune, there are always bad luck. But today he was lucky. His eyes suddenly lit up. The memory has come back. I would like to double the harm. In contrast to Dae Sung's confidence, in the real world, his friend Chan Ho is running with the waiter. The demon jumped down from above and roared so fiercely that the two children below were afraid of peeing their pants. So they could only stop running. The stick slammed into the ground but hit no one, making the demon angry, growling and looking at the silhouette of someone who had just passed by here. While it was having a fit, the two of them sprinted straight towards the open door. The demon did not allow that and frantically chased after him. But Chan-ho just ran inside and hid next to the door. The green-skinned demon quickly rushed forward. But its body as big as a bull couldn't get through. Not giving up, it stuck its hand inside. Chan-ho collapsed and raised his hands to help, while the waiter frantically ran and fell headfirst. Tired of being out of breath and having to hold his breath in the face of the demon's pursuit, Chan-ho attentively followed every movement of the demon's arm. Suddenly, it withdrew its hand and slashed it high into the ground with sharp lines, causing Chan-ho to look over and see that he was hiding the mark left behind and also sweat. Finally, fortunately able to escape the panic, Chan-ho gasped and said, "Let's go downstairs. The situation here seems to be fine." Returning to Dae-sung's battle with the laser robots, they slowly stomped their feet on the ground to move, but he was like a clever tornado running and jumping around through each finger. With a sharp mind and flexible body, he easily maneuvers and dodges the robots' attacks. Just try a little harder. His face looks tense because he has to calculate and dodge properly. Dae-sung rushed straight into a dense forest, making it easy to avoid the attack and also allowing him to easily fly and jump like a squirrel. Kicking hard against the tree trunk, he jumped up, quickly looked around and noticed a familiar place. Fortunately, this was the place he was looking for, so he happily pounced forward like a bullfrog. At that time, the robots were also chasing close to him. But Dae-sung didn't pay any attention, jumped to the front lawn and ran for his life. When he reached a sufficient distance, he suddenly used his foot to brake and stood up. In a cloud of smoke, the robots were still moving forward like ghosts in the mist. But he no longer ran away but stood proudly in their faces. The heavy feet pounded down, causing the ground to crack open. The group of robots lined up in a horizontal line slowly became clearer. Their aiming coordinates were immediately activated, determining the shooting range in preparation for the attack. Without any fear, Dae-sung pointed his middle finger straight at those idiots' faces with a sinister smile. "You guys were like the first mangoes of the season. Still very young and green." The robots continued their chase, but it seemed that the ground was shaking violently without their knowledge. Dae-sung smirked smugly. "You idiots. This place is not called the Forest of Predators for nothing." Suddenly, a giant mouth with sharp teeth crawled up from the ground and swallowed the robots. Then it immediately dived down. Seeing the fish's huge body sinking, he clicked his tongue. The swamp whale's eating habits were still the same. Happily turning away, he was sure that the robots were no longer able to save him, because any stick that entered the fish's beak would be digested. The system immediately informed him that he had met the conditions to reset his physical abilities. And a rich source of energy quickly arose and covered his entire body. Thanks to the powerful magical power, Dae-sung's most painful symptoms have completely disappeared. The system continued to send him a reward with the name of the judge's weakness. A short sword immediately appeared, causing Dae-sung to widen his eyes and slowly marvel. Some information about the item is provided as follows. This item is called the sword and gun and belongs to the weapon category. This is a sacred object that judges often use to deal with enemies. Made from the skin of the mud golem monster, he can control the sword within a maximum radius of 100 meters. The higher the magic power, the stronger the power. The remote control sounds interesting. I have to try it right away. Dae-sung immediately threw the short sword away to check the Lelric. It rushed for 100 meters and then suddenly changed direction to fly in the opposite direction like a boomerang, which was easily caught by Dae-sung. "It looks like a mess. But it's very different and that's it. Isn't it?" He seemed quite satisfied with this new weapon. As soon as he let his hand down, the sword and gun suddenly disappeared. He was so busy fighting that he forgot the appointment time with Chan-ho. He had to go back quickly or else he would be lectured by his friend. The teleportation gate was immediately opened to bring him back. In the real world, a news broadcast is being broadcast live led by two men. The host announced that a crack is appearing in Nangok Ward, which is believed to be a gate to heaven, causing the entire area to become chaotic. The same thing happened in Daegu. Then he asked the guest professor's opinion on this incident. He believed that the greatest responsibility belonged to the person in charge of this area. namely the Hunter Association. In the current shortage of human resources, the association's hunters took time off for the holidays, causing relief to be delayed. How can people put their trust in them? This stagnation situation is happening continuously, especially during recent weekends and holidays. Perhaps he wanted the association to take full responsibility for this incident. While the program was broadcasting, a car was speeding down the road, and the people inside were also watching the news. The six-pack undercut guy heard the accusations and wanted to lose his hair. The association's hunters were already much lower than those in the gang. But whenever something happened, everything would fall on them. Where is the justice? Still not angry, he grumbled again. It's true that she didn't study to be a journalist. They know so much about us that they dare to comment like that. While he was upset, the guy next to him kept talking non-stop, making the captain annoyed and told him to stop complaining. If we don't handle this matter properly, this team will also be determined. Because the team leader is you, we'll be fired forever. The atmosphere in the car suddenly fell. Everyone was reeling in their own thoughts. Suddenly the news was broadcast live from Nangok Ward. A mysterious hunter appeared and fought for thousands of people here. No one expected this move, so the two decided to go straight to Nangok Ward to investigate. The car immediately sped away into the night. At the same time, at the barbecue restaurant, thinking about the corpses and the chase on the rooftop, the waiter became scared and got goosebumps, trembling and wanting to get out of here. But Chan Ho suggested barricading himself here and waiting for reinforcements. If he went out to meet a ghost, he would be eaten right away. Suddenly, there was a loud noise that scared the two guys and they almost jumped out of their bodies. They quickly poked their heads over the table and looked out. The waiter hurriedly asked if this could be the sound of a hunter's car. But after staring outside for a long time, he only saw the light bulbs in the restaurant shaking. But otherwise there was no further movement. Chan Ho frowned warily. He had been hit a few times and now he had to see a real team of hunters to believe it. But it wasn't a team of hunters but a familiar person, causing both of them to open their eyes happily. Who else but our Dae-sung? Chan Ho saw that he had blood all over his body and was holding his stomach in pain. Worried and thinking his friend was seriously injured. But he panted and turned to call the waiter, making that guy a bit startled. Quickly light a fire to grill the meat. I'm starving to death. Hearing that, the waiter and Chan Ho remained silent. In this situation, was he still in the mood to eat? Chan Ho shouted that this crazy guy couldn't see the demon's body. There's no need to eat or drink anymore. The demons have short-circuited you. The inside of the restaurant was littered with pieces of a demon's flesh. And even the grilled intestines were covered in blood. Picking it up, he squinted his eyes but saw no problem. Put it in his mouth and chewed loudly in the bewilderment of the two men and grandchildren. Just looking at it made me nauseous, so I quickly covered my mouth with my hands to avoid the spray that was waiting in my throat. This guy is definitely a monster. Not a human anymore. Suddenly a pair of black boots entered the room. The fully armed soldier stood right next to the demon's body, asking if you guys were okay. As soon as he saw him, the waiter shouted with joy. Oh my god, I was able to save your life and thank you guys so much. Anyone who doesn't know what happened would have thought this guy had just won the lottery. While the waiter bowed his head like chopping wood to show gratitude, the soldier's eyes were drawn to where a young man was sitting eating meat. It's quite surprising that a civilian can stay calm like that. Maybe this guy saved up his salary for several months to exchange for a buffet meal. So now he's sitting on a mukbang, afraid that people would ask which camp his friend had escaped from. Chan Ho jumped out to greet his comrades, socializing with other people who had worked hard during the night. Then he patted Dae-sung on the shoulder and explained that this guy was so shocked that his actions were a bit unusual. I hope he would sympathize with me and forgive me. Just shut up, the soldier. Hugging him from behind, Chan Ho insisted that he had to take this crazy guy to the hospital. Because this friend was talking nonsense and was afraid he would be uprooted. But the soldier with a serious face did not allow them to leave. Is that terrible? Chan Ho smiled confidently, reached into his shirt and pulled out a notepad. Leader of the #1 business team of Ice Spirit Ice-sung Chan Ho. If there is any problem, please contact me here. My guild will solve it all. Seeing that, The soldier shyly apologized and then offered to lead everyone out. It's true that the power of someone who has the power to do anything is as smooth as Solsil. Outside, soldiers were busy checking the surroundings, but only saw the bodies of headless demons lying around. The captain stood still looking at the scene before his eyes while the undercut guy was vomiting next to the car. Loosening his tie to breathe easier, the captain frowned. What was this bloody massacre about? Angrily yelling at Nick Molly to check on the survivors. His face turned black and he could only obey, and everything was chaotic. Looking so big and muscular, his spirit was weak. Quickly regaining his composure, Nick showed off his talent in negotiating with the soldiers to get into the restricted area. The captain had also overcome his excitement and quietly judged that the person who caused this was even more brutal and stronger than those monsters and was worthy of his investigation. In another incident, Chan Ho's car was speeding down the street, and he asked Dae Sung to come over to his house to sleep. However, he immediately offered, "Why'd I have to sleep with a guy? Moreover, he is very worried about everyone at home, seeing that a heartless person like him still thinks about his family." Chan Ho is also quite satisfied. But when he comes home looking like that, his mother will be worried about all kinds of ostriches. Only now did Dae Sung realize that he was indeed stinking. So he decided to go to Chan Ho's house to clean himself up before returning. Chan Ho's apartment is located in a luxurious high-rise building. As soon as he stepped inside, he had to say, "WOA." Chan Ho told Dae Sung to order the chicken to eat, but he was busy immersing himself in this harmful modern glamour. A moment later, a table full of food was served, making him sweat profusely. There was no way he could eat it all. But Chan Ho excitedly said that instead of eating meat stained with monster blood, "Wouldn't it be better if I treated you to a delicious meal?" However, putting food and drink aside, Dae Sung suddenly reminded him of becoming a carpenter. Hunting can make a lot of money, right? Recalling the conversation at the restaurant, Chan Ho immediately replied, "Of course, but not everyone is lucky enough to find one. There are so many scammers out there. It's easy to see all of them in one fell swoop." And then he looked at him expectantly and asked, "Do you want to become a demon hunter?" Dae Sung only spoke briefly, his hands still busy stuffing food into his mouth. Chan Ho happily showed that his friend also had great potential, so he asked him to come to the association to register his name. The recruitment criteria is level B or higher, but Chan Ho is sure to stick to that.